Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has finally happened. Mr. Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher, they've met up for the first time since since all the drama has started. I don't like to throw the term and phrase beef out there lightly because it gets overused, but I think they did have some serious beef going on not too long ago. When it got serious and I was like, okay, we got a situation on our hands, is when Jimbo started taking personal shots and attacking Saban's character. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about that. We've spent enough time talking about it, but real quick, and I know this is random, but I have a serious question. Would you rather get $1 or tickets to a WNBA game? I get it. Like I said, I know it's random, but I just want to hear your answers. We like to joke around, and I like to have a good time on this channel just as much as anybody else, but I'm being dead serious when I say this. I'd rather have $1. If I had to pick between $1 and a WNBA game, bring me my money. I'll take it a step farther. I'd rather have a quarter. That's how bad women's sports are to me. They're that boring. I'd rather do anything else. And to answer that question, you can't be one of those sarcastic people and say, oh, I would take the ticket and sell it. No, that's not how the question works. You either get the ticket or you get $1. You can't sell it or do none of that. That's my question of the day. But anyways, let's get on to the main topic of this video. And that's Nick Saban and the SEC. For those of you that don't know, the SEC and all the head coaches, they're having their annual meeting in Destin, Florida. Destin, Florida, it's a beautiful place. They got great beaches. If you haven't been there, I highly recommend it. And what better place than to have all these head coaches? And you know dang well they wasn't going to have this conference and all these interviews without people asking about the Jimbo and Saban situation and what went on. Not going to beat around the bush. Saban didn't say anything relatively interesting. He just all in all said that he stands on what he said, and he has no problem with Jimbo. Here's what I think's the most interesting thing about this meeting. I'm going to show you a picture right now of the seating chart for all the coaches and people involved in it. If you look at the top of the seating chart and to the far right, that's where you got all of your head coaches, but guess who's missing? Jimbo Fisher. If you look at the bottom to the middle left, that's where Jimbo is surrounded by, presumably, his bodyguards, basically. I just found it funny how you got all the head coaches sitting beside each other, and then you got Jimbo just all by himself. Did they do this on purpose? You betcha. You can guarantee they was not going to let Nick Saban and Jimbo even sit near each other. And I would love nothing more than to see how awkward and how much tension was built up in that room. One of the more interesting things is when Kirby Smart addressed what went on with Jimbo and Nick Saban, and here's what he said. You guys should be on the headphones sometimes. That's Mickey Mouse. A bunch of you probably are confused by that and have no idea what he's talking about, so I'll dumb it down. Well, actually, I'll just read off this tweet because he explains it great. He says, translation, you should listen to how the coaches talk to each other during the games. That's exactly what Kirby's talking about. Kirby would later go on to say this. We don't speak to each other, any of us. They don't call, I don't call them. And if you don't know who them is, he's referring to the SEC coaches. It's not commonplace for guys to be reaching out and friendly when you compete on the field. Not super unusual to me. I gotta agree with old Kirby on this. It's just being competitive. Let me ask you a question. You really believe that Nick Saban, Kirby, Jimbo, and just everybody in this conference, they're going to love one another? No. These guys are competing not just every day on the field and on the Saturdays, they're competing every day in the offseason. They're recruiting these same players, and that's a never-ending cycle. And when you're trying to get these same players, there's going to be some tension. I think Kirby Smart, he said it best. There's no reason for them to talk. They're competing. For those of you that played football or you're currently playing football, if somebody runs you over, are you going to laugh about it and give them a high five? No, or at least I hope you don't do that. Everybody's freaked out about the SEC and how these coaches are going at each other, and rightfully so because we haven't seen anything like that before, but at the end of the day, they're competitors just like the players. Getting back on Saban, how he said he doesn't have a problem with Fisher, I expected him to say that. Nick Saban's a winner. What does that mean? Winners don't focus on outside factors. I mean this in the most respectful way possible. Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher, they're irrelevant to Saban. And it's not just A&M and Fisher, but it's every coach in the SEC in every program. One thing about Alabama that has separated them from everybody in college football, and it's because of Saban, he's told his players and engraved it into their minds that they're not competing against Georgia, Florida, or any team out there they play against. They're competing with themselves. Alabama, Nick Saban, everybody in that program is trying to be the best version of themselves. It's me versus me every single day. I truly believe Saban has no bad blood towards Jimbo Fisher, but I can't say the thing for Fisher towards Saban. It was clear cut and obvious that Jimbo, he has some built up anger towards him. Maybe that's because Saban's so great at what he does, and maybe it's because he's envious. I don't know the answers to that, but here's what I do know. It appears to seem that Saban and Alabama, they're not really worried about A&M. But A&M and Fisher, they're worried about Alabama. You can take that how you want, but I'm going to leave you with this. There's a reason Texas A&M stormed the field when they beat Alabama. There's a reason they celebrated that win for weeks. It's because they're not used to it. They're not used to winning games like that, whereas Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, they're used to winning. Whenever a team storms the field in college football, it tells you that they're not quite used to winning just yet. It's the same thing with Ohio State and Michigan. I think Ohio State, they're focused on winning championships, and Michigan, on the other hand, they're focused on beating Ohio State. They're on two different levels. Michigan is so caught up on just trying to beat Ohio State, that's their national championship. I've said the same thing about Auburn and Alabama for years. Alabama, they want to win championships. Auburn wants to beat Alabama. They're not on the same level. And I'm kind of getting that vibe with A&M and Bama right now. All in all, for the SEC coaches, I've never really felt like everybody was too fond of Jimbo in the first place. I don't sense that type of respect that a lot of these coaches have for one another when it comes to him. Kirby and Nick Saban, they may go at it, but once the game's over, they show respect. Even Brian Kelly, I understand it's his first year in the league, but you still get that sense of respect for him. Who's another one? Lane Kiffin. Although he's a goofball and he's the fan favorite, there is somewhat that sense of respect. I've never felt like anyone in general had that full sense of respect for Jimbo like they do with everybody else. I'm not really assuming that, that's just how I feel, and I could be wrong. But to me, here's how it comes off. It looks like Jimbo Fisher has this huge ego, but he hasn't done anything to deserve that ego. That's how I feel about it. Let me know in the comment section what you think, and I'm going to end the video off with this. All of this bad blood, tension, beef, whatever you want to call it, it's one of the greatest things that has ever happened to the SEC in college football. You know why it's one of the greatest things? Because it couldn't have came at a better time. Everybody's complaining how the sport's getting boring, there's only 4 teams, and it's the same 4 teams every year, and there's no parity. Although I've already spoke on this, there will never be parity because there's never parity in any sport. It is what it is. There is more parity in the NFL and some other sports, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Let me get back on topic. With the way college football was trending the past 2 to 3, 4 years, you could just feel fans around the country, they wanted more excitement. And I think this has done it. Not just for the SEC, but I think people all over the country, they can't wait to see that Alabama and Texas A&M matchup. I don't know what the record is for the most viewed SEC regular season game, but that, I would go on to say, that game right there is going to break it. We know Alabama's going to be good, but I don't even think it matters if A&M, they even lost a game or 2 going into it. There's still going to be so many people wanting to see what happens. From the pregame to the game and even after the game, people want to see how Nick Saban and Jimbo go at each other. It's going to be awesome, and I'm pumped up. The only sad part about this, we still got to wait like 95 days for the college football season to come back. I'm very curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. But peace. Yeah, so I need this video to get to 8 minutes because I'm just going to be honest. Your boy, Matt, he has bills coming up. So, yeah, about peace.